So what I got here is a range of oils that I have used and then going to use. So I started off, I'm quite into using the right spec oil, and it was 5W30, the A5, which is the Ford spec, because the Mazda is a shared engine with Ford. It's basically a Ford Duratec. So basically I was using that, had no issues with it. Obviously I'm running a turbo, so it's the heat that I'm worried about. The one thing I don't have is a temperature sensor, so this can't be that scientific, but it's going to be as scientific as I can show you in a very DIY kind of way. So wasn't really thinking anything was bad was happening. It definitely, I incorrectly put in the C3 variant of the 5W30 at the beginning, and I was getting quite a lot of tappet noise, lifter noise. I changed to the A5 and it went away. So all these people that talk about whether you should use the specific oils, maybe that's an indication that you should, don't know. I then recently did an oil change, and I have to admit the Patronus 5W30 A5, it was on sale, so I bought it and did an oil change. The one thing I've noticed with it is when I've run the car for a while and then I've stopped to let it idle, I was dropping down to around about 20 PSI with the Magnatec and dropping down to about 18 with the Patronus. So 2 PSI, you know, when the PSI is that low, starts to make a difference in my eyes. So that's what I'm running at the moment. Got a little bit worried about it. I started looking into oil coolers. People say, very quick to go over this, people say you shouldn't use a sandwich plate on the oil cooler between the filter and the mount housing, because the housing is liable to crack, and people have had horror stories where it's cracked on track, they've lost oil pressure and they've nuked the engine. So obviously that's worst case scenario, that's bad. So I then started looking into the adapter plates that you can get to go where the oil housing is with AM fittings. So I'm going to take that over to a remote thermostat oil housing where my filter would go, and then you have to start plumbing that. You have to find space for the remote oil, you have to then do the extra lines to an oil cooler. And obviously if I was running on track, that would probably be straight away the way I would go, but I'm not running on track at the moment. I'm just doing spirited driving, using the car, and just would like a little bit more PSI if I can get it. So basically, not going to go into lots of details, but the 5 number is the weight when the oil is cold, and the higher number is the weight when the oil is hot. There is more science to it, but that's the basics. So basically, if you're in a hotter climate, so if you're you had 5W30, you're in a hotter climate and the car gets really hot, the temperatures are ambient temperatures are really high, then it may be worth going up a number on this, because that could help. And that's basically what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to see whether, so when it's cold, it's going to be the same. When the engine gets hot, the oil gets hot because it's going through a turbo, I'm hoping that the 40 weight will give it a little bit more protection, maybe a bit of more PSI, and hopefully you know, help it in that way. When you read the blurb on the Miller's Motorsport, it's basically saying that this is designed for cars that normally take 5W30 but are used a little bit more spirited conditions. So they are recommending it for the application that we are about to use it for. So can't go into lots of details. I'm only going to be able to show you PSI figures, but yeah, it's just interesting to compare them. So this is the oil pressure. I'm just about to show what the cold start is. So that is 60 PSI with the Patronus oil for reference. So under light load, the pressure is just over 60 PSI. So after about a 10-15 minute drive on light throttle, I'm now down from just over 60 PSI to around about 45 PSI. So now it's warmed up to around about 45 PSI. As you can see, so that's at idle at a standstill, so that's around about 18 PSI. That's what I've been finding with the Patronus oil. It was a little bit higher, about 20 PSI with 5W30 Castrol. So that's what I get a little bit worried about when I'm in traffic and hot towns. I've been in France and it starts to drop down quite low, and I'd just like that PSI to be a bit higher. So I've just changed to Miller's. I don't know if the level is quite right at the moment, but I need to get onto proper level ground. Let's see what the oil pressure is on startup. Interesting, so that's less than before. So on a light throttle we are getting over 50 PSI, and remember that it was 45 before, so we're getting about 55 PSI, so that's a 10 PSI jump on light throttle, so interesting. So just sitting in traffic at the moment, you can see I'm about 22. It has, when it settles down, it's about 22 PSI. So I've gained 4 PSI on the Patronus, and sort of maybe 2 to 3 on the Castrol. So it's not a massive difference at idle and when warm. But I would say generally throughout the PSI when I've been driving it, that we've got more PSI, not by loads, but just by a little bit. And when you drop into sort of 18 PSI, a nice 4 PSI more is quite nice. You know, that's quite a percentage. So I think it was worth it, and yeah, going to keep using it.